An urban legend or contemporary legend is a genre of folklore comprising stories circulated as true, especially as having happened to a friend or family member, often with horrifying or humorous elements. Hello, my fellow weirdlings! It's Margot, and today I'm bringing you some of Alaska's most intriguing urban legends and local lore. If you're ready to get spooked and spine-tingled, keep watching. Alaska is a state with an abundance of hauntings, vanishings, cryptids, native lore, and a rich history that refuses to be left in the past. We begin our exploration with the vast enigma of the Alaska Triangle, also known as the Alaska Vortex or Devil's Triangle. The cities of Juneau, Anchorage, and Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, make up the 3 points of the triangle. In the past 50 years, over 20,000 people on foot, in boats and cars, and in airplanes have disappeared within this area, leaving absolutely no trace. More people disappeared there than anywhere else in the United States, with a missing person rate more than twice the national average. The mystery of the Alaska Triangle first made major headlines in October of 1972, when then House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Alaska Congressman Nick Begich and Russell Brown, and pilot Don Jones vanished within the triangle while traveling on a small private plane. Investigators never found the plane, any wreckage, or any trace of the people on board. This is when the Alaska Triangle got its name and started getting widespread attention, but the disappearances and other strange phenomena started long before this. Long before the notable incidents I'm about to mention. In 1918, the SS Princess Sophia, sometimes referred to as the Alaskan Titanic, was mysteriously drawn off course and smashed into a reef before sinking and killing all aboard near Juneau. In 1950, a military aircraft with 8 crew and 36 passengers on board disappeared without a trace. There were 2 separate reports of UFO activity in the area around the time of the disappearance. More recently, in 1990, a Cessna 340 carrying a pilot and 4 passengers also vanished. Within this expansive area are dense forests, craggy mountain peaks, massive glaciers, hidden caves, and deep crevasses where it's all too common for locals and visitors alike to meet their demise. This area is also home to many wild animals and extreme weather conditions. But are these the only explanations for such an unusually high number of disappearances? The Alaska Triangle's troubling track record has been blamed on everything from severe weather to aliens, to swirling energy vortexes, to the many cryptids and monsters that are said to roam the state. Often compared to the Bermuda Triangle, the remote area is infamous for more than disappearances, with many eyewitness accounts of UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, and numerous paranormal phenomena, some of which I'll be talking about in this video. It's interesting to note that electronic readings in this area of Alaska have found large concentrations of magnetic anomalies, some of which have disrupted compasses to the point that their readings are as much as 30 degrees off. Some search and rescue workers have also reported experiencing auditory hallucinations, disorientation, and lightheadedness. There's an astonishingly wide variety of cryptozoological creatures said to be roaming the state of Alaska. With tens of thousands of square miles of uncharted wilderness, it appears to be a friendly habitat for all manner of cryptids and monsters that enjoy their privacy and seclusion. For brevity's sake, I won't be going into this extensively today, but I will be doing a deeper dive into cryptids of the US and around the world in future videos. Some of the more notorious Alaskan cryptids, aside from those who seem to be a part of the Bigfoot family, are as follows. The Kushtaka. Also known as the Otterman, Tlingit folklore tells of evil spirits who could shift forms between otter and human, luring people into the water by mimicking the screams of women or children in distress, then stealing their souls. Legend also has it that the creature may appear to travelers in an irresistible form, such as a relative or vulnerable child, to lure victims to a nearby body of water, where it tears them to shreds or turns them into another Kushtaka. The Kalupalik is a creature of Inuit legend described as being human-like and having green, scaly skin with long dark hair and very long fingernails. She lives in the sea and hums to entice children to the water. She then takes the children back to the sea with her to raise as her own, never to see their families again. The Keelit is described as an evil spirit that takes the form of a malnourished-looking black dog, hairless except for tufts of fur on its paws that prevent it from leaving tracks on the ground. It's known to follow travelers in the dark of winter, attacking and killing them. Said to feast upon the dead, it's also seen as a harbinger of death. In folk tales, if a traveler were to see a keelet, it would disorient the traveler, eventually causing the person to succumb to hypothermia, which would result in their death. The saber wolf, or wa'ila, is a large wolf-like creature from Inuit legend that bites off the head of its victims. The saber wolf is larger and more heavily built than normal wolves, with a wide head and proportionally larger feet, and with long, pure white fur. Its hind legs are said to be shorter than its front legs, and tracks show widely spaced toes. Witnesses describe it as being about 3.5 to 4 feet at the shoulder. Wa'ila are never seen in packs, so they're assumed to be solitary creatures. The Kodiak sea monster, located in the waters near Kodiak Island, has been reportedly witnessed by at least 3 different groups of credible fishermen over the years, all describing with consistent detail a creature unlike anything they've seen before, with a long neck, a horse-like head, and blowholes for nostrils. Mostly dormant, this creature was last sighted in 2002. The waters in and around Alaska have also been known to harbor other large unknown aquatic beasts, such as the elusive Iliamna lake monster, which has been sighted since long before Alaska was a state, and the infamous Glacier Island carcass, the 42-foot-long carcass of a massive fur-bearing reptilian-like animal discovered on Glacier Island, Alaska in 1930. Alaska is seemingly a hotbed for UFO sightings, abductions, and extraterrestrial encounters. Since 1988, there have been over 560 reported UFOs in Alaska, with a majority of the sightings reported from within the Alaska Triangle. There may be a specific reason for that. The Stargate Project was a secret unit of the U.S. Army established in 1978. This project was primarily for the United States government's experimental use of remote viewing, the ability to psychically see places from a distance. It was terminated and declassified in 1995. Within these files was a document titled Sunstreak, containing reports which showed government knowledge of a secret alien base under Mount Hayes, the highest mountain in the eastern range of Alaska. Hayes is rarely climbed due to its remoteness and inaccessibility. It's also the epicenter of the Alaska Triangle. Could an underground facility have anything to do with the strange happenings in the area, dating back decades? In his book written in 1997, Remote Viewers: The Secret History of America's Psychic Spies, author Jim Schnabel describes in detail the involvement of U.S. intelligence in the psychic espionage now known as the Stargate Project. In the section dedicated to Pat Price, hailed as an extraordinary psychic spy, we learn that Mr. Price had described in one of his visions that, in Alaska, the interior of Mount Hayes, the jewel of the northeast of Anchorage, hosted and still houses one of the largest secret bases of aliens. According to Price, the aliens that lived deep inside Mount Hayes were very human-looking, differing only in their internal anatomy of the heart, lungs, blood, and eyes. Ominously, he added that the aliens used thought transfer for motor control of us. Price also added, the site has also been responsible for strange activity and malfunction of U.S. and Soviet space objects. While Pat Price's claims have never been confirmed, formally declassified FBI files show the U.S. military took a great deal of interest in tales of UFO activity in Alaska in the formative years of the subject, especially during the period of 1947 to 1950. The most famous UFO sighting in Alaska's history took place on November 17, 1986, when Japan Airlines Cargo Flight 1628, traveling from Iceland to Anchorage, Alaska, came across 3 unidentified flying objects. According to reports, the 3 UFOs chased the airplane for approximately 400 miles, right into the heart of the Alaska Triangle. People on board the plane said they saw flashing lights following them, moving quickly and disappearing, and showing up again in an instant. One of the objects was said to be twice the size of an aircraft carrier. The pilot claimed at one point the 2 smaller ships appeared directly in front of the plane at close range. He described the 2 small ships and the mothership disappearing and reappearing quickly, moving fast and stopping suddenly, which is impossible for a normal airliner to do. In order to escape the UFOs, the pilot received permission from the ground crew to fly at a lower altitude while making several turns to elude the objects, but nothing he did could evade them. After about 32 minutes, the UFOs disappeared, although the pilot claimed that he felt like the encounter lasted much longer. More recently, on March 19, 2019, 18-year-old Adonis Baugh videotaped a still unidentified glowing object apparently falling from the Anchorage sky. Another Anchorage resident captured photos of the same mysterious object, which a spokeswoman from Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson said did not resemble any aircraft from the base. Another thing Alaska doesn't fall short on is conspiracy theories. Perhaps the most interesting and enduring involves the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HARP, a facility located in the remote mountains of Gakona, Alaska, 200 miles northeast of Anchorage. Since the U.S. military started building it in the early 1990s, HARP has been blamed by conspiracy theorists for everything from controlling mines and the weather to creating some of the most destructive earthquakes in recent decades, directing the polar vortex, long-distance spying, the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, testing monstrous weapons for the defense, and even the destruction of the Space Shuttle Columbia. It's been referred to as Alaska's Area 51. On the surface, HARP is one of the world's most powerful radio transmitter facilities. It's a massive instrument made up of 180 large antennas sprawling over 33 acres, built to study the ionosphere, the upper edge of the atmosphere, where phenomena like the aurora borealis originate, as well as where radio waves travel from transmitter to receiver. It's essentially a larger, more powerful version of the radio frequency probes that anyone can buy at an electronics store. The scientists in charge of HARP have always asserted the facility has no direct military applications whatsoever, that it is and always was planned to be a research facility. The HARP facility and its equipment are currently owned by the University of Alaska Fairbanks as of August 2015. This video wouldn't be complete without mentioning at least one haunting, which Alaska has aplenty. One of the more popular stories, and one of the earliest recorded ghost stories in Alaska, involves the Blue Lady, also known as the Black Lady, who haunts the Baranof Castle State Historic Site in Sitka, Alaska, also known as Castle Hill. Baranof Castle was home to many Russian governors in the 1800s. The original Tlingit community had a fortification at the site, and the Russians who occupied the area from 1804 to 1867 built Baranof Castle. It was on that site that the Russians took down their flag and officially transferred the state of Alaska over to the U.S. in a formal ceremony in 1867. Now all that remains of the castle are a few cannons from the 1800s, panels teaching visitors about the history of the area, a breathtaking view, and the ghost of the Blue Lady. When the U.S. purchased the territory, the family and residents at Baranof Castle returned to Russia. Soon after the family's departure, newspapers began to report the presence of a ghost, a beautiful and doomed Russian aristocrat haunting the site. Described as wearing a blue dress, a long black veil of mourning, and diamonds, the lady drifted through the castle at night, sadly bemoaning her fate. Rumors and news reports circulated that the lady had killed herself on her wedding night in order to avoid an arranged marriage with a man who she didn't love. Now she can be seen roaming Castle Hill and sometimes the historic Russian bishop's house nearby. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed these stories and will come back for more. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and bring your friends, family, COVID pod, cult members, invisible friends, or enemies. And if you want me to share your story, I'll leave my contact info in the description box. Thanks so much for watching.